Admiral Danny Cole stood alone on the bridge of the carrier Relentless Dawn, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the endless darkness of space. The stars here, near the Kepler frontier, burned cold and distant, like the eyes of a galaxy that had never truly welcomed humanity. 40 years. That was how long humans had been part of the Galactic Concord. 40 years of being treated like children at a table of giants. 40 years of watching alien diplomats smile with too many teeth and dismiss every human proposal with polite contempt. Danny remembered the day Earth had made first contact. He had been just a boy then, watching the news feeds with his father as massive Velthari ships descended through the clouds. The whole world had held its breath, expecting wonder. What they got instead was a lesson in galactic politics. The Velthari were old. Their empire stretched across 1,000 worlds. And they had been conquering and trading while humans were still figuring out how to make fire. To them, Earth was nothing special, just another primitive world with resources to exploit and workers to use. The door behind Danny slid open with a soft hiss. He did not need to turn around to know who it was. "You should be sleeping, Admiral," said Commander Lisa Harper as she walked up to stand beside him. Her voice carried the tired edge of someone who had also given up on rest. "Could say the same to you," Danny replied. Lisa handed him a tablet. The screen glowed with intelligence reports, sensor data, and fleet movements. None of it was good. "The Velthari have been moving ships to our border for the past 3 weeks, she said. "At first it looked like training exercises. Now we have confirmed sightings of their 3rd and 7th battle groups near the Helios Passage." Danny studied the data. 2 full battle groups meant hundreds of warships. The Velthari did not move that kind of firepower for training. "What about diplomatic channels?" he asked. "Silent. Ambassador Perry has been trying to reach their council for 5 days. No response." Danny set the tablet down on the console. Through the viewport, he could see the distant lights of the colony ships heading toward New Helena. Families, children, people looking for a better life on a world that humanity had struggled to claim. The Galactic Concord had not made it easy. Every colony permit came with taxes. Every trade deal favored the older species. Earth's representatives were given the smallest seats in council chambers and the shortest time to speak. Most of the galaxy saw humans as useful laborers and nothing more. What the galaxy did not know was that humanity had been preparing, thousands of light years away, in a secure facility beneath the mountains of Colorado. Secretary of Defense Kevin Grant sat at the head of a long table. The room was filled with generals, admirals, and intelligence officers. The air was thick with tension. "They are coming," Kevin said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "The question is not if, but when." General Patricia Webb, commander of Earth's orbital defense forces, pulled up a holographic display. Red dots representing Velthari ships clustered near human space like a swarm of angry insects. "Our public fleet cannot hold against this," she said. "We have 47 ships that the galaxy knows about. The Velthari are bringing at least 300. Then perhaps it is time to show them what they do not know about," said Admiral Frank Reyes, the oldest man in the room. He had served in the Navy for 50 years and had been one of the architects of humanity's greatest secret. Kevin nodded slowly. Project Lazarus. The name hung in the air like a promise. For decades, humanity had played weak. They had shown the galaxy only a fraction of their true strength. Every warship the Concord saw was just the tip of an iceberg. Beneath the surface, hidden in asteroid fields, buried inside hollow moons, and constructed in shipyards that officially did not exist, humanity had been building and waiting. "If we activate Lazarus now, there is no going back," Kevin said. "The galaxy will see what we really are. Some will fear us. Others will hate us. And the Velthari will never forgive us for making them look like fools." "Better to be feared than conquered," General Webb replied. Kevin looked around the table. Every face showed the same grim determination. These were people who had spent their lives preparing for a moment they hoped would never come. Now it was here. "We wait," Kevin decided. "But not for long. If the Velthari make the first move, we respond with everything we have." Back on the Relentless Dawn, Danny Cole watched as his small task force patrolled the border. 12 ships. That was all he was allowed to show. 12 ships against an empire that had crushed civilizations older than human history. Lisa stood beside him, her reflection visible in the viewport glass. She was young for a commander, but she had proven herself in a dozen engagements against pirates and raiders. Danny trusted her more than anyone else in his crew. "Do you think they will actually attack?" she asked. "Yes," Danny said without hesitation. "The Velthari have been looking for an excuse to put us in our place since the day we joined the Concord. They think we are weak. They think we are afraid. Are we?" Danny turned to look at her. For a moment, he let the mask slip. Behind his calm exterior was something that few people ever saw. Not fear, not anger. Something older and harder. "Humans have been fighting since the first caveman picked up a rock," he said. "We fought each other for thousands of years. We survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that killed millions. We clawed our way to the stars through blood and fire. The Velthari think they know what war looks like." He paused. "They have no idea." The communication console suddenly lit up with an emergency signal. Red lights flashed across the bridge as crew members rushed to their stations. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Amy Chen from the comm station. "We are receiving a distress call from New Helena. Velthari warships have entered their system. They are demanding unconditional surrender." Danny's jaw tightened. New Helena. 3 million colonists. Families who had trusted that humanity would protect them. "How many ships?" he asked. "Initial scans show over 300, sir. The colony's defenses are reporting that communications are being jammed." This was the last message before the signal cut out. Lisa looked at Danny. "Orders, Admiral?" Danny Cole took a deep breath. The waiting was over. The storm had finally arrived. "Set course for New Helena," he said, "and send a coded message to Earth. Tell them the Velthari have made their move." As the relentless dawn turned toward the distant colony, Danny knew that nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for 40 years. They were about to learn just how big a mistake that was. The relentless dawn dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Helena system, followed by 11 other human warships. Against the backdrop of stars, they looked small and fragile. Danny Cole knew that every sensor on every Velthari ship was already tracking them. "Tactical report," he ordered. Lisa Harper studied her console, her face pale in the blue light of the displays. "Confirmed 312 Velthari warships in formation around New Helena. They have established a blockade around the planet. I am also detecting ground forces on the surface." Danny's hands curled into fists at his sides. Ground forces meant occupation. The Velthari were not just making a threat. They were taking the colony. "Any response to our arrival?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The Velthari flagship is hailing us." On screen, the main view screen flickered, and then the face of High Commander Zyrith filled the display. He was tall even by Velthari standards, with gray-blue skin and eyes like chips of black ice. His uniform was decorated with medals from 100 campaigns, and his thin lips were twisted into something that might have been a smile. "Admiral Cole," Zyrith said, his voice smooth and cold. "How good of you to come. I was hoping the humans would send someone to witness their defeat." Danny kept his expression neutral. "High Commander, you have invaded a human colony and taken our citizens hostage. This is an act of war." "War?" Zyrith laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. "This is not war, Admiral. This is correction. Humanity has forgotten its place in the galaxy. You are a young species. Weak. Primitive. It is time you learned to kneel." Behind Danny, he could feel his crew tensing with anger. He raised a hand slightly, signaling them to stay calm. "I am offering you one chance to withdraw," Danny said. "Take your ships and leave this system. Release our people. We do not want this to escalate." Zyrith leaned forward, his black eyes gleaming. 12 ships, Admiral. You brought 12 ships against my Armada. Do you think this is a negotiation?" He waved a clawed hand dismissively. I will give you 10 minutes to turn around and run. After that, I will destroy your little fleet and add your wreckage to my collection." The screen went dark. Lisa stepped closer to Danny. "Admiral, we cannot win this fight. Not with 12 ships." "I know," Danny said quietly. "But we are not here to win. We are here to buy time." The battle began exactly 10 minutes later. Velthari warships surged forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging with deadly light. Danny ordered his ships to scatter, using the asteroid field at the system's edge for cover. Captain Megan Torres commanded the destroyer Iron Horizon from the center of the chaos. Her ship was smaller and faster than the Velthari cruisers, and she used every advantage she could find. She dove between asteroids, using them as shields, then spun to fire precise shots at enemy engines and sensor arrays. "Focus on their targeting systems," she ordered her weapons officer. "If they cannot see us, they cannot hit us." The Iron Horizon danced through the battle like a knife in the dark. Megan had trained for years in simulations that the Velthari did not know existed. Human tactics were built on thousands of years of warfare, refined and adapted for the stars. While the Velthari relied on overwhelming force, humans had learned to fight smart. But smart could only do so much against 300 ships. One by one, the human vessels began to fall. The cruiser Brave Heart took a direct hit to its reactor and exploded in a ball of fire. The frigate Silver Lance was crippled by concentrated fire and left drifting. Danny watched each loss on his tactical display, feeling every death like a wound. "Admiral," Lisa said urgently, "we have lost 4 ships. We cannot sustain this much longer." Danny nodded. They had done what they came to do. The message to Earth had been sent hours ago. By now, the gears would be turning. "All ships, fall back," he ordered. "Retreat to the secondary rally point." On the Velthari flagship, High Commander Zyrith watched the human fleet flee with satisfaction. As he had expected, the primitives had broken quickly. Their tactics had been clever, he admitted, but cleverness meant nothing against true power. "Shall we pursue?" asked his second-in-command. "No," Zyrith said. "Let them run. Let them tell the rest of their species what happened here. Fear is a weapon too." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the Galactic Concord. Tell them that humanity has been humbled. Their colony belongs to us now. And they were too weak to stop it." Far from the battle, in the frozen darkness of the Oort cloud, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Shaw stood on the observation deck of a facility that did not officially exist. Around him, carved into asteroids and hidden inside ancient ice, were the shipyards of Project Lazarus. Ryan had been assigned here 2 years ago. He had signed enough secrecy documents to fill a library, and he had spent most of his time thinking that the whole thing was exaggerated. Stories about hidden fleets and secret weapons sounded like something from old war movies. Now he watched in stunned silence as the truth revealed itself. Massive doors were opening all around him. Ships were powering up, their running lights flickering to life like stars being born. Carriers longer than anything he had ever seen. Battleships bristling with weapons that made standard armaments look like toys. Dreadnoughts that seemed to bend space around them with their sheer mass. "How many?" he whispered to the officer beside him. "This facility alone has 420 ships," she replied. "There are 11 other facilities like this one." Ryan did the math in his head and felt dizzy. Thousands of ships. Humanity had been building thousands of ships in secret, and no one in the galaxy had any idea. On Earth, Secretary Kevin Grant received confirmation that the first wave of Lazarus ships was activating. He stood in the command center, watching as green lights appeared on the strategic display one after another. Each light was a warship. Each warship was a promise. "The Velthari think they won today," he said to the generals around him. "They think they taught us a lesson." He picked up a secure communicator and opened a channel to Fleet Admiral Natalie Cross, the woman who would command the full strength of humanity's hidden armada. "Admiral Cross," he said, "you have authorization to proceed. Show them what we really are." In the depths of space, across a dozen hidden locations, engines roared to life. Navigation systems locked onto coordinates. Hyperspace drives began to spin up. Humanity was waking up. and the galaxy was about to learn that the species they had dismissed as weak and primitive had been playing a very different game all along. Admiral Danny Cole sat in his quarters aboard the Relentless Dawn, nursing a cup of cold coffee. They had lost good people today. Friends. Brothers and sisters in arms. The retreat burned in his chest like acid. Lisa entered without knocking. Message from Earth. Admiral. Danny took the datapad she offered and read the words on the screen. His eyes widened, and for the first time in hours, he smiled. What does it say? Lisa asked. Danny looked up at her. It says the cavalry is coming. All of it. News of humanity's defeat at New Helena spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, alien species watched the footage of human ships retreating from the Velthari Armada. Some felt pity. Most felt nothing at all. Humans had always been weak in their eyes. This was simply confirmation of what everyone already knew. In the great chamber of the Galactic Concord, representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss the situation. The hall was enormous, built by a civilization that had died before humans learned to walk upright. Ancient stone columns rose toward a ceiling lost in shadow, and holographic displays showed maps of territories that spanned entire galactic arms. Ambassador Nicole Perry walked through the massive doors with her head held high. She wore a simple black suit. No jewelry, no decoration. Around her, alien diplomats whispered and pointed. Some laughed. The Velthari representative, a tall figure named Counselor Dreth, stood at the central podium. His voice echoed through the chamber as he addressed the assembly. As you have all seen, he said, the human incursion into territories beyond their capability has been corrected. New Helena is now under Velthari protection. The human military has proven itself insufficient to defend even a single colony. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Nicole walked to the speaker's platform and waited for permission to address the assembly. The council moderator, an ancient being from a species so old that no one remembered their original name, nodded slowly. The representative from Earth may speak, the moderator said. Nicole looked out at the sea of alien faces. Most showed boredom or contempt. A few showed something that might have been curiosity. She took a deep breath. I come before this council to request assistance, she said. The Velthari have invaded a human colony without provocation. They have killed our citizens and imprisoned our people. Under the charter of the Galactic Concord, we are entitled to collective defense. Counselor Dreth interrupted with a cold laugh. Entitled? Humanity is entitled to nothing. You are a minor species with minor holdings. Your 40 years in this Concord have been a courtesy, nothing more. Then we are asking for that courtesy now, Nicole said calmly. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, the other representatives turned away. Some shook their heads. Others simply ignored her. No one spoke in humanity's defense. Nicole had expected this. She had prepared for it. I see, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Then let me leave you with something to consider. Quote, she stepped forward, and something in her posture changed. The submissive diplomat was gone. In her place stood something harder. Humanity has been part of this Concord for 40 years, she said. In that time, we have been taxed, restricted, dismissed, and humiliated. We have watched you divide our territories, limit our trade, and treat us as servants in our own home. Counselor Dreth's expression darkened. You should be grateful we allowed you to exist at all. Nicole smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Before we joined the stars, humans spent thousands of years fighting each other, she continued. We invented weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We developed tactics that would make your greatest generals weep. We learned to wage war in every environment, against every type of enemy, in conditions that would break most species. She paused, letting her words sink in. For 40 years, we have shown you only what we wanted you to see. We have been patient. We have been careful. We have been watching and learning and building. Her eyes swept across the chamber. You think you know what humanity is capable of? You have no idea. Without another word, she turned and walked out of the chamber. At the classified rally point, 3 days' travel from New Helena, Admiral Danny Cole stood on the bridge of the relentless dawn and watched the stars. His remaining ships floated nearby, battered and scarred but still functional. 8 vessels out of the original 12. Every survivor felt like a miracle. Lisa Harper approached him with a tablet. "Admiral, we are receiving incoming hyperspace signatures." Danny turned sharply. "Velthari?" "No, sir." Lisa's voice was strange, almost reverent. "The signatures are human." The first ships emerged from hyperspace like thunder made visible. A carrier group, massive vessels surrounded by screens of destroyers and cruisers. Then another group. And another. Within minutes, the space around the rally point was filled with warships. Danny watched in amazement as the fleet kept coming. Ships he had never seen before. Designs that had existed only in classified briefings. Weapons platforms that looked like they could crack a planet. "How many?" he whispered. Lisa checked her console 3 times before answering. 1,200 ships so far, Admiral. And more are still arriving." A communication came through on the command channel. Danny accepted it, and the face of Captain Ben Martinez appeared on screen. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Admiral Cole," Ben said with a slight smile. "Captain Martinez, commanding the dreadnought Manifest Destiny. I have been instructed to place my vessel and 40 others like it under your tactical command." 40 dreadnoughts? Danny repeated. "Yes, sir. Plus the carrier groups, battleship formations, and support vessels. Fleet Admiral Cross sends her regards and asks that you prepare for offensive operations." Danny looked at Lisa. She looked back at him with an expression of wonder that probably matched his own. Outside the viewport, the human fleet continued to assemble. Ships of every size and class formed into battle groups. Fighters launched from carrier bays to run patrol patterns. The scattered survivors of New Helena suddenly found themselves at the center of the largest military force humanity had ever gathered. On the orbital station Citadel Prime, Fleet Admiral Natalie Cross watched the deployment from her command center. Holographic displays surrounded her, showing fleet positions across multiple star systems. She was a small woman with short gray hair and a face carved from determination. She had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. "All fleet elements report ready," her aide announced. Natalie nodded. "Open a channel to all ships." The communication system connected her to over 2,000 vessels. When she spoke, her voice reached every bridge, every crew quarters, every battle station in the Armada. "This is Fleet Admiral Cross," she said. "For decades, we have hidden our strength. We have endured insults and injuries in silence. We have watched the galaxy dismiss us as weak and primitive, while we built the tools to prove them wrong." She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "Today that changes. Today, we show the Velthari and every other species in this galaxy what humanity truly is. We are not victims. We are not servants. We are the descendants of warriors who conquered their own world and reached for the stars." Her voice hardened. "New Helena is waiting. Our people are counting on us. Let us remind the universe why they should never have underestimated us." Across the fleet, crews cheered. Engines powered up. Weapons systems came online. The Armada began to move. A tide of steel and fire flowing toward the enemy. Admiral Danny Cole watched from the bridge of the relentless dawn as the fleet jumped to hyperspace. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then they were gone, hurtling toward a battle that would change everything. The giant had awakened. And it was angry. High Commander Zyreth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the occupation of New Helena proceed according to plan. Ground forces had secured all major cities. Human colonists were being processed and assigned to labor camps. The few who had resisted were made into examples. Everything was going perfectly. His sensor officer suddenly made a sound of confusion. "Commander, we are detecting hyperspace signatures at the edge of the system." Zyreth did not bother to look up from his reports. "More human ships coming to beg for their people." "How many this time?" I am having difficulty counting them, Commander." Something in the officer's voice made Zyreth turn. The sensor display was filled with red dots, so many that they blurred together into a solid mass of color. The officer's hands were shaking as he tried to process the data. "That cannot be correct," Xyrith said. "Run the scan again." "I have run it 4 times, Commander. The readings are accurate." Before Xyrith could respond, the sky outside the viewport changed. Ships began emerging from hyperspace. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands of them. They filled the darkness like a wall of steel, blocking out the stars themselves. Carriers larger than anything in the Velthari fleet. Battleships bristling with weapons. Dreadnoughts that seemed to radiate power even at a distance. Xyrith felt something he had not experienced in over a century of warfare. Fear. "How many?" he demanded. The sensor officer could barely speak. "Over 2,000 warships, Commander. And more are still arriving." Across the bridge, every Velthari officer had stopped working to stare at the impossible sight. Their 300 ships, which had seemed so overwhelming against the human task force, now looked like toys scattered before a giant. A communication came through. Xyrith accepted it with numb fingers. Admiral Danny Cole appeared on screen. His face was calm, almost peaceful. "High Commander Xyrith," Danny said. "I told you before that humanity did not want this to escalate. You chose not to listen. So let me offer you one more chance." Danny leaned forward slightly. "Withdraw your forces from New Helena. Release our people. Leave this system. If you do this within the next 30 minutes, we will let you go. If you do not." He gestured to something off-screen, and the view shifted to show the human armada in full formation. Rows upon rows of warships stretched into infinity. "Then you will learn what happens when you wake a sleeping giant." The screen went dark. Xyrith stood frozen for a long moment. Part of him wanted to surrender. Part of him knew that fighting this fleet was suicide. But he was Velthari. His people did not kneel to primitives. "All ships," he commanded, his voice steady through sheer force of will. "Attack formation. We will show these humans that numbers mean nothing against Velthari warriors." The Battle of New Helena began. Captain Megan Torres led her destroyer group into the chaos at full speed. The Iron Horizon had been repaired and rearmed since the first battle, and now she was eager for payback. Her squadron dove toward a group of Velthari cruisers, weapons blazing. "Target their shield generators," she ordered. "Let the big guns finish them off." Human weapons technology, refined in secret for decades, proved devastatingly effective. Missiles that could penetrate shields designed to stop conventional warheads. Energy beams calibrated to exploit known weaknesses in Velthari armor. Electronic warfare systems that jammed enemy targeting with surgical precision. The Velthari fought back with everything they had. Their ships were powerful, and their crews were well-trained. But they had expected to fight the weak human fleet they had defeated days ago. They were not prepared for this. Admiral Cole coordinated the battle from the relentless dawn, Lisa Harper at his side calling out tactical updates. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Each ship, knowing its role, and executing flawlessly. "Carrier Group 7, advance on the left flank," Danny ordered. "Battleship Division 3, concentrate fire on their command section. I want Xyrith's flagship isolated." The massive dreadnought Manifest Destiny powered forward through the center of the battle. Captain Ben Martinez stood on its bridge, watching as his ship's main guns fired for the first time in combat. Each shot tore through Velthari vessels like they were made of paper. "This is what we built them for," Ben said quietly. "All those years of hiding. All that patience. This is why." On the surface of New Helena, the colonists who had survived the occupation emerged from their shelters to watch the sky. The battle above painted the clouds with fire. Velthari landing craft that had seemed so terrifying were now retreating in panic, racing back to their motherships. An old man named George Porter stood in the ruins of what had been his home, looking up at the lights. A young woman beside him started to cry. "They came back," she whispered. "They actually came back for us." George put a hand on her shoulder. Humanity always takes care of its own. In space, the Velthari fleet was crumbling. Ships that tried to flee were cut off by human interceptors. Ships that stood and fought were overwhelmed by superior firepower. High Commander Xyrith watched his armada die around him with hollow eyes. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as another volley struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across every console. Half his weapons were offline. His engines were failing. "Commander," his second officer said, "we should surrender. We cannot win this battle." "Surrender?" Xyrith turned on him with fury. "The Velthari have never surrendered to a lesser species. Never." Xyrith turned on him with fury. "Really did. Over the port." "Never. Then we will die, Commander. All of us." Xyrith looked at the view screen. Human ships surrounded his flagship now, their weapons pointed at his hull. One more volley would finish them. On the relentless dawn, Lisa looked at Danny. "Orders? Admiral? Their flagship is disabled. We can destroy them, or we can be better than they were," Danny said. He opened a channel to the Eternal Dominion. "High Commander Xyrith, your fleet is defeated. Your ship is crippled. You have two choices: surrender and live, or die in the void for nothing. Choose." The silence stretched for a long moment. Then, slowly, the lights on the Velthari flagship changed. Weapons powered down. Shields dropped. The universal signal of surrender. Across the system, surviving Velthari ships followed their commander's lead. Those that could still fly turned and fled toward hyperspace. Those that could not drifted powerless, waiting to be collected. The Battle of New Helena was over in less than 3 hours. Danny Cole stood on the bridge of the Relentless Dawn, looking out at the aftermath. Debris from hundreds of Velthari ships floated among the stars. Below, on the planet's surface, human colonists were already being liberated by marine landing forces. Lisa walked up beside him. "Final count, Admiral. Enemy losses: 247 ships destroyed, 62 captured, including the flagship. Human losses: 12 ships destroyed, 31 damaged, 12 ships lost, 12 crews who would never go home." Danny felt each loss deeply. But they had done what they came to do. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. Danny thought about the Velthari Empire, about the Galactic Concord, about all the species who had spent 40 years treating humanity like dirt beneath their feet. "Now," he said, "the real work begins." The news of what happened at New Helena spread faster than any fleet could travel. Within days, every corner of the galaxy knew that humanity had crushed the Velthari Armada. The footage was everywhere. 2,000 human warships appearing from nowhere. The proud Velthari fleet reduced to burning wreckage in hours. High Commander Xyrith, the conqueror of a dozen worlds, forced to surrender to the species he had called primitive. For the first time in 40 years, the galaxy looked at humanity and saw something other than a minor nuisance. Emperor Korthox of the Velthari Empire addressed his people from the throne room of his palace. His words were broadcast to every world under Velthari control. He spoke of betrayal and deception. He called for total war against the humans who had humiliated his greatest commander. But behind closed doors, his advisors showed him numbers that made his blood run cold. Intelligence reports estimated the full human armada at over 5,000 warships, with more being built every day. The weapons they had displayed at New Helena were unlike anything the Velthari had faced before. A prolonged war would not be a conquest. It would be a catastrophe. Across the Galactic Concord, other species were making similar calculations. The Thrawn Collective, who had dismissed humanity as useful only for manual labor, suddenly expressed interest in trade agreements. The Makari Union, who had blocked human expansion for decades, withdrew their territorial claims overnight. Species that had never bothered to learn the name of Earth's leader were now requesting diplomatic meetings. Fear was a powerful motivator. Fleet Admiral Natalie Cross led the main human armada to the border of Velthari space. Not to invade, not to conquer, simply to be seen. World after world watched the human ships pass by, a silent demonstration of strength that needed no words. On the agricultural planet of Veltar 7, Farmers stopped their work to stare at the sky as hundreds of human warships blocked out the sun. They had never seen their own military in such numbers. The message was clear. If humanity wanted to, they could take everything. But they did not. Ambassador Nicole Perry returned to the Galactic Concord chamber 2 weeks after the battle. The same hall that had ignored her pleas now fell silent at her entrance. Representatives who had laughed at her now watched with nervous attention. She walked to the speaker's platform and looked out at the assembled species. Councillor Dreth of the Velthari was conspicuously absent. His replacement, a younger diplomat named Selith, sat quietly in the back row with eyes fixed on the floor. "I stand before you today not to gloat," Nicole began. "Not to threaten. Not to demand revenge for the years of disrespect humanity has endured." She paused, letting the tension build. "I am here to offer peace." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Many had expected threats, demands, perhaps even an ultimatum. "Humanity never wanted conquest," Nicole continued. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy or subjugate other species. All we ever wanted was to be treated as equals, to be taken seriously, to have our voice heard." She spread her hands. "Now you have seen what we are capable of. You know that we could have hidden this strength forever. We could have used it to take what we wanted by force. Instead, we revealed ourselves only when we had no other choice, when our people were attacked and enslaved, when every peaceful option had been exhausted." Nicole's voice softened. "We do not want enemies. We want partners. We want trade and cooperation and mutual respect. The choice is yours." The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, representatives began to rise. One by one, they indicated their support for renewed negotiations. New treaties, new relationships built on something other than contempt. It was not forgiveness. It was not trust. But it was a beginning. In a secure facility on Earth, Secretary Kevin Grant sat across from High Commander Zyrith. The Velthari warrior looked diminished somehow, smaller than he had appeared on the view screen. Defeat had a way of shrinking even the proudest souls. "You have a choice," Kevin said. "You can spend the rest of your life in a cell, a symbol of Velthari failure. Or you can help us build something better." Zyrith's black eyes studied the human across from him. "Why would you want my help?" "I invaded your colony. I killed your people." "Because peace built on hatred never lasts," Kevin replied. "I have read your service record, Commander. You are not a monster. You are a soldier who followed orders from an empire that saw humanity as less than nothing. I am offering you a chance to prove that the Velthari can be more than conquerors." Zyrith was silent for a long time. He thought of his fleet, destroyed, his reputation, ruined, his empire, humbled by a species he had dismissed as insects. "What would you have me do?" he finally asked. "Help us negotiate a real peace with your people. Not a surrender. Not a humiliation. A partnership." Zyrith considered this. It was not the death in battle he had expected. It was something harder, something that required a different kind of courage. "Very well," he said. "I will try." Months later, Admiral Danny Cole stood on a hillside overlooking the memorial being built on New Helena. The names of everyone who died during the occupation and the battle to liberate them were being carved into black stone. Humans and the 12 crews who gave their lives so that others could live free. Lisa Harper walked up beside him, her boots crunching on the gravel path. She had been promoted to captain after the battle, given command of her own ship. Danny would miss having her on his bridge, but she had earned the honor. "It is beautiful," she said, looking at the memorial. "It is sad," Danny replied. "All those names, all those people who will never see what we built." They stood in silence for a while, watching workers add more names to the stone. "Do you think it was worth it?" Lisa asked. "All the years of hiding. All the secrets. All the sacrifice." Danny thought about the question. He thought about the 40 years humanity had spent being treated like nothing. The secret shipyards, the hidden fleets, the soldiers who trained for a war they hoped would never come. "I think," he said slowly, "that we did what we had to do." The galaxy gave us no other choice. They looked at us and saw weakness. So we had to prove we were strong. Maybe now, things can be different. Lisa nodded. The Concord is already changing. Trade agreements we could never get before. Territory claims that are finally being recognized. They actually listen to us now. Fear will do that, Danny said. But fear fades. Eventually, they will need another reason to respect us. What reason is that? Danny looked at her and smiled slightly. That we are worth respecting. That we keep our word. That we protect our friends and forgive our enemies when we can. He turned back to the memorial. That we are more than just our weapons. The sun was setting over New Helena, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In orbit above, the relentless dawn waited alongside ships from 3 different species, all working together on a joint patrol, the first of its kind. The galaxy spent 40 years underestimating us, Lisa said. Danny nodded. Let us hope we never have to remind them again. They stood together in the fading light, 2 officers who had seen the worst and the best of what their species could do. Behind them, the memorial grew. Ahead of them, the future waited. Whatever challenges came next, humanity would face them, not as servants or victims, but as equals. Finally,